Hello, you're watching Saints Live with me, Kenzie, Benali.
And me, Steve Forbes.
And a warm welcome to St Mary's Stadium ahead of a huge clash at the bottom of the Premier League. Southampton taking on Bournemouth, with both teams desperate to pick up 3 crucial points. Now, match days don't come much bigger than this, and guests don't come much better than these two. Yes, alongside us is former Saints captain Dean Hammond and Premier League reporter Paul Belverstone. Great to see you both. Are you looking forward to tonight, Paul?
I thought you were going to say guests don't come much bigger. Very aware I was encroaching on your shot as well. I was thinking, right, it's definitely time for a diet. But no, apart from that, very nice to be here. Thank you very much.
Oh, we can always count on you to bring the humour. Dean, lovely to see you in person. How have you been?
I'm very good, very good. Nice to be back at St Mary's. Nice to have Paul here again, and looking forward to the game. I must admit, I'm a little bit nervous, but excited as well. It's a huge football match, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Good stuff. It was great to see you as always. Now remember to get your comments in throughout the show, and we'll try to read out as many as we can. The team news is coming up in under 15 minutes time. What we know so far is that Ché Adams is back in contention, having missed the last few games. Also, Ainsley Maitland-Niles is back in contention too, having missed the game against Arsenal. That was his parent club. Jan Bednarek was due to be assessed this morning, having come off in that game due to a concussion injury. Juan Larios, Tino Livramento and Mo Salisu are all still unavailable though, gentlemen. So Dean, on that, what lineup would you hope to see tonight?
Well, I think the obvious answer is that maybe Ruben Sellers will go the same, because it was a very good performance against Arsenal. A good result. On reflection, I know it was frustrating at the time and disappointed at the time, because we led in the game against a brilliant Arsenal team. But personally, I think there may be 1 or 2 changes. You mentioned there, is Ché fit enough to come back into the team? I think he's such an important player. He's a vocal point for the team. Is he fit enough though, or would he come off the bench and make an impact? Elyounoussi, I think he's done fine against Arsenal, but maybe a more attacking option, because we're the home team and we want to take the team to Bournemouth. So who comes in now, I'm not sure. Maybe Theo Walcott goes to the right hand side and Ché Adams comes into that centre position. I'm still considering in my mind maybe Mara coming in, just because I think he can score goals, and he does get opportunities when he scores. When he came on against Man City, a really, really good finish. But I know he can be frustrating, and I know sometimes he doesn't work as hard as the manager wants him. But I do believe he has the ability to score goals, and we need to score goals because we need to win games. I think Perraud continues a left back. I like that because he gives balance, a natural left-footed player, even though Maitland-Niles is back again in contention. And it's whether Jan Bednarek is fit enough, and if not, Shaletta Shah for me, because I like him as a player. I think he's always done well. I think he will grow as a player. He's a good size, he reads the game well, he's a good defender, seems reasonably vocal when he's there, so he can help the Bella Kocher, who's still inexperienced, even though he's played more games. But I think it will be very, very similar. But it all depends on the approach of the manager. Will he try and stay in the game and just keep it a low tempo game, or will he attack? Will he press? Will he try and win the game early and take Bournemouth on? I hope it's the latter, and if he does that, I think there could be a couple of changes.
Paul, with a few players now available again to feature tonight, do you expect Ruben to make any changes?
I do think Ché will start if he's able to, if he's fit. I think it's a strange thing to say when you've just scored 3 at the league leaders, but they have missed him, and he's proven that while throughout the season, throughout last summer, everyone was saying there's a desperate need for a new striker, he is the best one here right now. He causes problems and he looks most dangerous, and I think he will come in if he's able to. I think, I was under the impression until just a couple of hours ago that Maitland-Niles was one of Ruben Sellers' sort of favourites, that he always picks him. I was surprised to see that actually Romain Perraud has started 8 of his 11 games. So I wonder if he does keep the fullbacks like that. I think Jan Bednarek, it was interesting that he wasn't a concussion sub on Friday. I thought that's quite telling. They have, of course, gone through the concussion protocols, the club, because they're very sensible. They're very aware of player welfare and things, so they will have done all the checks. But I expect him to start again. We know that Ward-Prowse, Lavia, Alcaraz, Walcott, they're all going to start. So there are only really a couple of positions that could see a bit of rotation. I do wonder if today is a day for Kamaldeen Sulemana, because you look at the fullbacks, Bournemouth sort of play a hybrid 3 at the back, 4 at the back. Lloyd Kelly on the left side of the 3 and sometimes fullback. He looked very shaky against West Ham. On the other side, Adam Smith is much more forward thinking. He wants to go up the pitch. You know, having Sulemana run at them, he could win free kicks, win corners. We know how well Southampton have been improving in that department, and Bournemouth concede an awful lot from there. So, you know, Ruben described Sulemana just yesterday in his press conference as bringing a bit of chaos. I think that could be helpful today.
That's Belvers and Dean's early thoughts ahead of the team news. But before we go any further, let's look back at Friday night's pulsating match at the Emirates.
Can Saints surprise everybody? Can they put some stress on Arteta's side? Aaron Ramsdale, of course, still only 24, Joe, and they've given it away. Alcaraz has a chance and gives Southampton the lead within 27 seconds. Saka has it on halfway, infield to Partey. The ball, though, given away. Saints pick it up. That's a good early ball as well from Elianusi to Alcaraz, the goal scorer. He threads it through to Walcott, 2-0. He scores his second goal against his former club for Southampton since his return to Saints. Here's Bukayo Saka into the box, gets the byline, pulls it back, volley, 2-1 with the ball go out of play. Here's Perro with time to cross from the left, hangs it towards the back post, free header there, Ramsdale goes down, makes a save, and then he saves a second time, and it lands on the net. It's a corner to Southampton. Brilliant football all round. We're in stoppage time at the end of the first half. Saints need the whistle. They lead 2-1. They need to survive this corner from Saka. He's going to whip it in left-footed. And he does. Curls it to the near post. It's flicked on. It's dangerous. It's off the line from Southampton. Still no decision from the referee. Outswinger from Ward-Prowse on the right. It's flicked on by Benali. And the header in the back post. And it's Diachaleta. Unbelievable. At Arsenal. And now Arsenal have it, and a long-distance shot comes in, and they're back in the game, and Erdegaard has curled it in from 20-odd yards. That ball in to feet, shot comes in, save from Brazunu, follow-up, it's 3-3, and Arsenal go mad. Trossard dummies the pass, gets the edge of the D, hits the crossbar, and over. Gabriel, he can hardly stand up, and the referee says, that is that. What a remarkable game of football at the Emirates Stadium. I'm not sure anybody saw that coming.
Highlights there of Friday night's draw at Arsenal. Now, Dean, plenty to talk about from that game. Let's start with Charlie Alcaraz, and he made a big contribution in the first half. Talk us through his goal, his assist, and his fantastic goal line clearance.
Well, it was a perfect first half, really. I mean, it's a brilliant goal. It's a great assist, and it's an amazing goal line clearance. But now, the first goal was all about anticipation, all about reading the game so early on. Once he intercepts that ball, I really believe that there's only one thing in his mind. He has 1, 2, 3 touches, composes himself, and it's a wonderful finish. It really, really is. And it's helped by Theo Walcott's run because it distracts the defender and almost gives him that little bit more time. The assist is incredible because he shows such great awareness, his positional sense, because when the ball's played into him, he could have a touch, which slows the play down. Partey then may be able to get back at him, but because he lets the ball run across his body, he's then running with the ball towards Arsenal's goal. Great run again by Theo Walcott. You see at the end, he just points where he wants it. The weight of the pass, the timing of the pass. It's brilliant. It's what you work on in training around mannequins when you've got no opposition. And it's the perfect goal, really. And then the clearance off the line is all about anticipation. Again, reading the game and just reacting really, really well. I've mentioned it lots of times this season about players taking personal responsibility, reacting to situations, and he did that. He believed that Rob Holding was going to get the first flick, reacted, and it's a brilliant clearance. It really, really is. He leaves his man, I think it's Partey again, comes off, and a great header. So he had a fantastic first half, and I think the biggest surprise was he came off at half-time. I know that maybe was a tactical switch because Southampton were leading, but he's been a real influence on this team. He's been a little bit in and out, but when he has played, he's been fantastic. I mean, has he got 4 goals now? I think he has, maybe 3 or 4 goals, a couple of assists. The runs he makes from midfield is very, very different to any other player we have. He looks like he's got a real natural eye for a finish, and for such a young man who's settling into a new country, a new culture, a new football club, he's been fantastic. And the first half was brilliant, and I'm sure he really enjoyed that himself.
Yeah, we did too. Well, the Saints were, of course, 2-1 up at half-time. Arsenal then piled on the pressure at the start of this second half, but of course, Ché Adams then restored that 2-goal advantage for Southampton from a corner. And actually, we wanted to show the build-up to that corner because it owed a lot to a forward pass from Lianco, when actually it would have been easier to potentially pass backwards, Belvers.
Yeah, especially when they had been forced on the back foot so much, having to soak up all that pressure. This was about 20 minutes into the second half, and he looks backwards and he then thinks, no, I'm going to ping this up the line, and it's a tremendous pass first of all, and then there's this example of what Saints were doing so well in the first half of putting Arsenal under pressure, really closing down quickly. I mean, the fans absolutely love that, don't they? Can't get enough of that. And then wonderful cross, as we expect, from James Ward-Prowse, and Armel Bella-Kotchap, of course, wonderful little flick on under pressure from Rob Holding. And I heard Dean say this in the post-match show last week, that Ché had a long time, really, to look at it, think of it, and potentially panic. But he composed himself, and that's what a header that is. You know, under real pressure, a player who hasn't had many minutes in recent weeks and months, and we were all Lianco when that went in, weren't we? We were all screaming. I mean, you know, all of the players here, Perrault gives great emotion there, and, you know, obviously Ché Adams himself, but what a wonderful moment that was. And you're absolutely right about that forward pass, because at that moment, Saints were sort of looking to move Arsenal around a little bit. They were trying to open up the pitch, looking for opportunities, and, you know, it would have been safer to go backwards. It was certainly easier, and a backwards pass or a sideways pass isn't necessarily negative, but I think that was a sign of real confidence, real belief in the manager's system, the game plan, because he just took that moment and thought, nope, there's a nice little forward opportunity. After 20 minutes of pressure, I think that's a really positive sign.
Well, ultimately, Southampton couldn't hold on to that lead, Dean. We saw them score 2 in a matter of minutes near the end. Martin Odegaard's fantastic strike made it 3-2, and then a rather fortunate equaliser from Saka, where it seemed to go through 3 Southampton players' legs in a matter of moments. What did you make of the goals, and could they have been prevented?
I think the first goal, the actual execution of the strike is brilliant from Odegaard. I think in the build-up, if you look at it, Southampton have got a lot of bodies around there. They deal with the first phase pretty well. Comes back out, and you have to stress as well, the Southampton players are pretty tired at this moment and pretty fatigued. And it's a good ball round the corner, good movement from Ben White, gets it back, and there's only one thing he's going to try and do is curl it into the far-hand corner. But I think Diallo there, again, just needs to use his body and body check Odegaard, so he can't get the ball back. He can't prevent the ball going back towards him, but he can prevent him from having such a smooth path to receive it back again. So that small detail. The equaliser, again, there was a spell where Arsenal were getting a lot more balls into the front man's feet around Southampton's area, where it wasn't happening earlier in the game. James Ward-Prowse does the right thing. He just can't quite move his feet quick enough, and it goes through his leg. It's a really, really good save. And then as Bella-Kotchap's about to clear it, as he anticipates the rebound, he just unfortunately slips, and it just can't quite recover and spread his body quick enough to block it. So a little bit unfortunate. I don't think there's a lot you can do about that. You can be hypercritical and say they need to get a little bit more pressure on the ball to not allow it to get into the area. And then Trossard almost gets the winner, which I think would have been wrong, if I'm honest. But the Southampton players are dead on their feet there. They put so much effort into the game. They would have been so disappointed to lose the game, and I'm sure there was a lot of relief at the end that they did get a point, because Arsenal finished really, really strong and could have won the game. So I don't think there's too much we could have done to prevent the goals, unless you break it down in huge detail. But like I always say, in the Premier League, the game moves so quickly, it's such a pace. There's such noise as well, it's really difficult to communicate with players, so you have to go off your own instinct. So I think they were just unfortunate in those moments.
Well, we've just got a matter of seconds until the team news is out, but we'll get a few comments in the seconds that remain. We have Sarah Kingswell who says this is must win, that's it. Richard Chud Martin says must win, must win, must win, must win, come on lads. Also Linda Stiles says come on you Reds, and Chompy also says come on you Saints.
Oh, well, always great to hear from the fans there. But let's bring you the team news now then, shall we? 2 changes from the team at the Emirates. McCarthy in for Gavin Bazunu and Duje Shaletta comes in for Armel Bella-Kotchap. So let's run through that Southampton starting 11 in full then, shall we? In goal, as I mentioned, Alex McCarthy replaces Gavin Bazunu. The back 4 is as follows: Carl Walker-Peters, Jan Bednarek, who's been deemed fit to start following his concussion injury. Alongside him is Duje Shaletta, and then who comes in for Armel Bella-Kotchap, and at left back is Roman Perro. In the midfield then it's Romeo Lavia and our captain James Ward-Prowse, and then the front 4 out wide, Adam Armstrong and Moi Elianusi, and then Charlie Alcaraz and Theo Walcott up top. The Saints substitutes then are as follows: Gavin Bazunu, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Lianco, Musa Gineppo, Kamaldeen Sulemana, Stuart Armstrong, Joe Aribo, Sekou Mara and Ché Adams. So, Dean, let's come to you then for your thoughts on that starting 11. Perhaps a few surprises in there.
Well, I don't think any of us thought about Alex McCarthy would be starting the game. So, an interesting one. Maybe the manager just wants or feels that he needs a little bit more experience in that area. So that's an interesting selection. I don't think Gavin Bazunu's done anything wrong in particular. It's his first season in the Premier League. I think he's been growing as a player and he's got better and better as the season's gone on. But like we always say, we don't see what the manager sees. We don't see what conversation he has with players, how players are performing in training. Maybe Gavin Bazunu just thinks he needs a rest and just to take him out of the scenario for 1 or 2 games. So that will be interesting to see how fit Alex McCarthy is and how he handles the game. Shaletta coming in for Bella-Kotchap again, a bit of a surprise. Not surprised that Shaletta is playing because I like him as a player, I rate him as a player. More the fact that Bella-Kotchap has been performing well. So again, maybe young player, first season in the Premier League, maybe there's a bit of fatigue there physically and mentally and just wants to freshen it up. So no tactical change, more personnel change. It will be interesting to see how Southampton line up. I was talking to Paul before the show, and the game against Arsenal, it was a little bit lopsided in the forward areas, which I think worked against Arsenal because it caused some confusion. The players were rotating well. Adam Armstrong was playing really wide left, but then Theo Walcott was playing up front. Alcaraz at times, he was then dropping on, and Elianusi was kind of floating around. So it would be interesting to see how they set up tonight and how that approach, they approach that against Bournemouth. But yeah, a good solid team, and the majority of the team that put in a really good performance against Arsenal.
Yeah, Belvers, what are your thoughts on tonight's lineup?
I think Armel Bella-Kotchap must have an injury because he's not in the squad at all. We didn't get any hint of that at the press conference yesterday or watching the game on Friday, so we'll wait and see what the news is there. I think Bazunu, there's been lots of moments this season when we've wondered whether he might be taken out of the firing line a little bit. It is an awful lot of pressure and strain to put on such a young man, deep in a relegation fight, and perhaps a couple of the goals recently where he has just palmed it into the sort of the middle of the 6-yard box rather than being able to push it out wide, and attackers have followed up, Eze and the one at the week and the one on Friday. Perhaps that one of those was the final straw for Ruben Sayers, but it seems hugely surprising and perhaps a bit harsh, but it could be a masterstroke. Alex McCarthy's a very good keeper, and with a bit of luck he comes in, commands his area and keeps a clean sheet here today. I am surprised Adam Armstrong keeps his place, but not disappointed. I think there was obviously a reason he was put in for the Arsenal game. As Dean said, a lot of football has been played at Staplewood over the past fortnight, few months, whatever, and Adam Armstrong has impressed the manager enough to give him that starting point, and I think it would have been, again, harsh to just say, right, you've had your hour, now off you go again. So, with a bit of luck, we see a very confident player there show why he has impressed his manager in training recently.
Yeah, indeed. Well, one player we weren't sure who would be fit or not today was Jan Bednarek, of course. Dean gave his thoughts on the Jan incident last week. What did you make of it, Belvers?
I think we've got to split it into two. There's the incident itself and then the reaction afterwards. I have no explanation, no idea, don't understand at all how it's not a yellow card. I don't think it was even a free kick. It's clearly dangerous. You can't be doing that. By the way, Arsenal fans have been ranting for a good couple of years about Harry Kane doing this exact same thing. it is dangerous. There is a reason why in rugby you get a red card for that. In basketball you are ejected from the game, because watching it live I was really fearful for Bednarek's long-term health. Not whether he could come back on in this game, but he lands from such a great height right onto his upper back and neck. That could have serious repercussions, and I think, realistically, the laws have to look into this and do something before someone is seriously injured. By the way, I'm not saying there was any great malice from Martinelli on this, but he was permanently on the move. It's not like Bednarek tried to go over him or through him. And then there is a lot of positive to all this, that Bednarek is desperate to come back on, which is great to see, but it's also great that the medical staff had his long-term welfare in mind. The Arsenal medical staff got involved as well, lightning fast, and altogether they said, no, look, it's much, much better for you if you stay off. And the medical staff were backed by the coaches, and very quickly he reacted like this. This is a player who's been absolutely pilloried by big sections of the fans for his attitude, for his supposed poor attitude of when he went off on loan or whatever. I think he has come back, and after a slightly slow start, he has grown into a real leader of that back four, and the whole defensive unit, as shown then. He could have just sat on the sidelines and sulked, felt sorry for himself. Instead, he went out there and he was giving instructions. He was temporarily a member of the coaching staff. I think he deserves great credit and a few apologies as well.
Dean, following that game, we didn't really know how to feel. Now, since then, Leicester, Everton, Leeds have all picked up points. Is that point at the Emirates only a good point if we get all three tonight?
I think it's a brilliant point if we get 3 tonight. But I think it's a... Look, I think we all, me and probably particularly, need a reality check. It's a brilliant... We've gone to top of the league, we're bottom of the league, and got a point. We've led twice in the game, we could have won the game, and I think that's where the disappointment and the frustration and probably the question comes in, that we haven't won the game, and what that would have meant to this Southampton team going into the game tonight. I think it's a really valuable point. We'll only know at the end of the season if it really, really matters. But if we win tonight at 4 points out of 2 games, I think that's what we would have all wanted, and all, I don't even say, would we have predicted that? Probably not. So we're probably a point up if we win tonight, because we were thinking out of 2 games, if we get 3 points, that's a bonus and that's a positive. So for me as well, it's not just a point, it's the fact that we'd score 3 goals. I think the teams down at the bottoms, the ones that are bottoms or have been pulled back into it, look at Everton. We almost, a few weeks ago, thought they were clear and thought safe. Sean Dyche comes in, he knows how to get out of these situations, which he does, but they're not scoring goals. Southampton has scored 3 goals. We'd scored 3 against Tottenham. That's really important, because you need to score goals to win games, and we need to win games to stay in this division. 6 games left, I think 4 wins keeps us in the division, and I think that starts tonight. So I think it's a really valuable point, but the performance, the energy, the effort from the players needs to be congratulated and rewarded after reacting against that Crystal Palace performance and defeat. So no, I think it's a valuable point.
Right, before we cast more of a light on our opponents for tonight, let's hear what the fans are saying watching in from around the world. We have Jarko on YouTube who said, "This is the ultimate chance, nothing but a win is acceptable." Also, we have Christopher Woodgate says, "Come on, you can do it." Sean Pybus, "Come on Saints, must win game tonight." Jordan Dearlove has also said, "Let's go Saints." Stephen Townsend, "Nothing less than 3 points. Saints players have to give it 100%. Well, Paul, we did get 3 points at the Vitality early in this season. It was a 1-0 win. Ché Adams getting the goal there. Does that just demonstrate what Ché can bring to this team?
Yeah, and I think he'll show this from the bench tonight as well. He is a tremendous player. He's not as prolific as we'd all like, of course, especially after the number of goals he scored in the Championship, but he bullies defenders. Defenders won't like playing against him. You know, he picks that up there when it's probably the defender should get it. I like this, where the chance appears to have gone, but he's in space and he stops. There are coaches out there who'll say you always have to be on the move. He realised he had a yard or 2 of space and he just paused, and then the defender sort of drifted a bit closer to him, and that's when he exploded into the space and he got the goal. And it's not the first important goal he scored against Bournemouth either. The season that they were relegated, he scored in the game that essentially sent them down. So I also like players playing against teams that they've had success against in the past, because this game is so much about confidence. It's so important, and I do think that when you go up against a team that you've had success, even if you're not thinking specifically about that goal, there is going to be an extra little something in your mind that, oh yeah, I enjoyed playing against that defender before, or I know how to do that, and it'll be in the defender's mind as well, potentially as well. So, him coming back today, I think, is very timely, because he's a great weapon to have from the bench. He'll be going into this game with great confidence after what he's done against Bournemouth before. Hopefully, when he does come on, Saints are already 2 goals up, and he, helps the goal difference with a couple more. But, I think he, having him back will have given everyone a big boost, because he's a very popular member of the squad as well. And the month he's been out, he has been sorely missed.
Well, fixtures between Southampton and Bournemouth have been relatively common in recent years, but we did actually go 23 years without facing the Cherries, between 1987 and 2010. Now, Dean, you were playing in one of those. I should clarify, it was 2010. What do you remember from that one?
Thanks for making me feel old, Kenzie. 13 years ago, wow. A game where we were coming into a season where we were probably the favourites in League One, and first time we probably as players felt a little bit of pressure. We hadn't started the season very well. I think we'd lost before this game as well, but a fantastic goal from Adam Lallana. Talented player, I mean, what a player, what a talent he was, and it was a really good example of what a player he is, where he receives the ball on 1 foot, 2 free touches, gets exactly where he wants it and curls it into the far corner. Just a fantastic footballer. But the players we had on the pitch that day, look, you've seen Adam Lallana, Jason Puncheon, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. I actually think Ricky Lambert might have been on the bench and he came on to set this goal up. But Oxlade-Chamberlain shows his pace, young player coming in. He was raw at the time, but we all knew what a talent he was. But it was a tough game. What do I remember of the game? I think I got booked, which is not a rarity, which is just standard, normal standard. I remember actually Alan Pardew digging me out a little bit after the game, which was interesting as well. And I remember going home to my wife thinking, I'm not sure I'm going to be here much longer, to be honest. So that wasn't too nice either. But what it does show how far the club have come. We're in League One there. You can see the stadium is not full at the time. We are pushing promotion League One. We're a Premier League team now. So it was great to be part of that, but it does show how far we've come. But yeah, it was the start of something special.
Paul, Dean said it there, how far Southampton have come. I think it's fair to say both clubs have come quite far since those League One days. What do you make of Bournemouth now under Gary O'Neill, and what does Southampton have to be wary of tonight?
Well, one thing to start this, I think players have got to take responsibility for their actions and think about the long-term implications as well, because the last thing you want to do is give the opposition any ammunition, anything that they can put on the wall of the dressing room to really give them motivation and fire them up. And I think someone who really should know better should have looked ahead at what this could do, because Gary O'Neill was talking yesterday about how he made his debut for Portsmouth Reserves as a 15-year-old, coming through straight from school, straight from a maths lesson. It was a Portsmouth-Southampton derby at Hammond and Waterlooville, and he was up against this left-back who was wearing a cast on his arm. Kick-off goes, he runs in behind, gets smashed in the face. It was a Mr. F. Benali.
Never heard of him.
So Gary O'Neill might be coming here with a bit of revenge in mind. No, look, Bournemouth, I have done a lot of Bournemouth games this year. I've been to the club a fair few times for interviews and things, and a lot of what they've done has been hugely impressive. They changed manager after 4 games because they'd got absolutely thumped 9-0 at Anfield. Everyone around here knows what it feels like to get thumped 9-0, but having just come back up into the Premier League, the manager sits in a press conference, Scott Parker, and says these players aren't good enough for this division, something needs to be done. The job Gary O'Neill has done, initially as caretaker on a long-term basis up until the World Cup break, and then afterwards, I think has been really tremendous. They had a big sticky spell after the World Cup break where they'd been playing well and picking up the odd sort of result, and then after the World Cup break things seemed to really jar, and there was talk about his future, and then suddenly in the last few weeks it's clicked. They've picked up 4 wins in 6, I think, in a run to pick up 33 points and are in a great position. So a lot of admiration there, but they do have a lot of weaknesses as well. I mentioned about set pieces earlier. They've conceded 60 odd goals this season. They've conceded something like 40 in their 15-16 away games, and 20 of them have come from set pieces. So, you know, I think the fullbacks are, you know, you're able to get at them. I think a big miss for them is Jack Stevens because of the loan rules. You know, one of the ways they looked to have turned a corner on the set pieces and defending was when they brought him in a couple of months ago. He seemed to organise things a lot better, and they were much improved. So with him missing today, I think that helps Southampton. And we've all seen Southampton this season play brilliantly here, brilliantly away. They can get at them. They will try to sit in, I think, and try to counter. But a team that concedes 60 goals in a season can't be great at that, particularly.
All right, well, it's that time of the show where we come to you both for your final thoughts ahead of kickoff and get those score predictions. So, Dean, we'll come to you first. It's got to be a win tonight.
No, it has to be, Kenzie. It's a must-win. It has to be. There's 6 games left. Like I said, I think we need 4 wins, and it has to start tonight. Is it a derby? I'm not too sure, but I think there'll be a really good atmosphere within the stadium, and that's down to the players for that to continue. High energy, press, take the game to Bournemouth. So before the show, I was thinking it'd be a 2-1 Southampton, but actually thinking about it, I think if Southampton can keep a clean sheet tonight, we win the game. So I think that's really, really important, that we defend well, we have that togetherness that we've showed at times this season. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 Southampton.
Oh, yeah, that would be lovely, wouldn't it? Belvers, what do you make of that, and what are your final thoughts as we build up to kick off here?
Bournemouth fans certainly see this as a derby. They have been talking about this game. They've been looking forward to it for months. They've been talking about it non-stop for weeks. I think, you know, maybe Ruben Sayers has made some very big calls in recent weeks. Some have paid off, some he's been unlucky with. Perhaps the McCarthy one today is a stroke of genius. Clean sheet today, scored 3 against Spurs, 3 against Arsenal. Why not 3 again today?
For joining us as well on Saints Live. Well, it is a huge night here at St Mary's, where nothing less than 3 points will do for Southampton, but they're coming up against the Bournemouth side looking to win 3 consecutive Premier League away games for the first time. But no matter the result, we will all be back on the final whistle for post-match reaction and analysis, so enjoy the game and we'll see you then.
Bye for now.